Hey, this is Pastor Jacobs of James Jacobs Ministry. You can go to jamesjacob.org and you can find us there to give you some ministry tools, some growth example that can help you grow in God and make you more effective in your ministry. So today I'm talking today with Pastor Ronelle Jones. He is the pastor of True Vine Community Church of God in Christ in Tacoma, Washington. And I want to welcome him to the broadcast. We have a candid conversation just about ministry. He's a young minister, and I just want him to come on and we just talk about ministry and life. It's a great decision to decide to become a pastor. But then the work began because passion is a lot more than just preaching. It's about the people and how you are able to manage what God has given you to manage. So welcome to the broadcast, Pastor Ronelle. Good to see you.
God bless you, sir. Good to see you. Glad to be here with you on today and excited for this dialogue.
Good, good. I just want to talk a few minutes about young pastors, and perhaps I can share some things and help young pastors that might be tuning in later on. My purpose in life really is to inspire others to be better, but also to leave a credible contribution to your community. And I think that's important for young pastors to be able to leave a credible contribution to their community. And that takes consistency, that takes integrity, that takes commitment, that takes a decision to decide that I'm in here for the long haul and I'm focusing on the people that God has given me. So I think that's important for a young preacher to bring those things into focus before you really start to doing ministry. So how are you doing right now as far as ministry? What are some things you've gleaned so far since you've been, like Bishop Westbrook said, you've been in the South for a little while. So tell me some things that maybe you see you unexpected whatever you saw so far.
Well, let me first say to you that I appreciate you. I'm grateful to be a part of this platform. You are a tremendous leader, have been doing it for some time. So just honored to be able to be a part of this moment. I think that pastoring in ministry, I've been doing ministry long before I was given the title pastor. And we know this is a different role, a different capacity. But I think that what I've learned more than anything is that all of the various things that I have been a part of in my ministry have now come together in one place where I pull on all of those facets at some point in time. And it reminds me of when I first started working at McDonald's years ago as a teenager, that one of the things the manager told me there was that they have worked in every capacity of that particular job. And that's what made them a good candidate, a good person to be the manager. And I think that that's what pastoring really is as well. There's so many different facets that you are working on and sharpening in your ministry at some point. And then when you're put into the role, you begin to see at some point you're going to need some of all of what you learned. And that's the first thing that that hit me immediately.
Well, I'm glad you put it that way because you said you was already doing ministry before you came a position of pastor. And so many times I think we miss the mark of leadership because we grab for the position. When you look at the 5 levels of leadership, position is the lowest form of leadership. So many times we grab for the position, but when you think about what Paul told Timothy, he said, do the work of an evangelist. He didn't tell him to go be an evangelist. He said, if you do the work, that's what you want. Do the work. As I think that's important for young pastors to realize that you have a position of pastor, but it's not about the position. It's about leadership. Because if you cannot lead, how the people gonna follow you? You know what I'm saying? You have to
I
walk.
agree.
You have to walk. So I think the first thing that a young pastor needs to have, you need to develop number one, some leadership skills. You need to learn how to lead people. If you know how to lead people, that's what your assignment is, to lead people. Jesus told Peter, he said, feed my sheep, feed my flock. So it's important for you to have some leadership too in order for
Yes,
you
sir.
to be successful as a pastor. And I think that's what God has called me to fit in that gap to tell people, wait a minute, now you got the position, it's too late to start over, but let me help you to be successful moving forward. Let's put that position on the table and let's talk about how to lead, you
Yes,
know?
sir.
So those are things that I want to address as young pastors. You need to know how to lead, because leadership deals with communication. First of all, it deals with integrity, because if you don't develop yourself, how are you going to develop others? So those things are
Sure.
important.
Yeah,
Talk to me.
absolutely. And I agree. I don't think you can lead somewhere where you have not been, and that
Hmm.
you won't be able to teach someone something that you don't know.
Right.
And so you've had to have been in a position where you've learned. And all of the years of my ministry, going back to even my years of coming up in ministry, you've always been a person that's been a consistent thread throughout the fabric of my ministry, where I've been able to call you and pull on you various times just to pull on that wisdom. And I think sometimes that's another part of pastoring that I've also learned, is that God encourages us as the pastor to feed his flock. He considers us to be a gift to the body, but he never told us that they were a gift to us.
Hmm.
And with that being said, it reminds me of my position to his people, which means that there are times that I need to make sure, as a chef that feeds them food, I need to make sure I'm talking to other chefs that's been doing this a minute, and that's why you get calls from me, because I want to make sure that I'm doing it the right way. Yes, I talk and communicate to God, but He gives us a wealth of wisdom around us, the safety net in counsel, to be able to ask questions, and that's something that I would encourage anybody. Just my time of being a pastor, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Hmm. And I remember year 1999, Pastor Apostle David and I went to a conference at TD Jakes, and it was a conference about leading while beating. you know,
Mm,
and so many times as a young pastor, if you're bleeding, if you don't have if you're not cured, it's hard for you to lead other folks. And the other part of that is, why are you feeding others? And the question is asked, you being fed, you feeding others, but who's feeding you? See, why you are feeding others, but who's feeding you? So I think a young pastor is important for them to make sure they be fed by the books they read, the conference they go to, other people they lie into their life. So you need to surround yourself with helps that build you up. Sure, we know we got God and we can pray. Those things are almost natural. But I think it's important for us to surround ourselves by some natural things that can help us up. That I need to go away and get some rest. I need to go to the conference. I need to be fed. I need to improve myself so I can feed my people better. I think that needs to be a constant thread through the young pastors. That if I don't have anything in me, I won't pour in anybody else.
yeah. I agree. I think personal devotion is important. God intends to be our daily bread, and He intends for us to be our daily bread so that we can have that personal intimacy with Him and our personal devotion. So that this is not a sermon I'm studying for, but this is life I'm studying for. And out of my life study, my discernment comes. My personal tailor-made word for the church comes, because I've been reading the Word and I've been in a constant flow with God daily. I think sometimes you can get caught up in um, studying and learning, as you stated, for somebody else. But a really good cook, when they get finished eating or finished cooking, they never really sit at the table to eat with everybody, because they've been eating the whole time, testing, making sure it's good to eat. And by the time everyone else is eating, they're already filled. They're already full with food. So,
Mhm.
you know, I would say this too. I think it's important that in ministry, I had to remind myself this, that everything that I associate God with, I'm not sure if God always associates himself with. And in other words, I'm learning to keep the main thing the main thing. There are certain things that are
Mhm.
ideas and concepts that other people may be using, and that may be okay for them. I wasn't in the time of devotion with them and God. So
Mhm.
I can't associate God with that just because I want him to be associated with that. It has to be something God is associating himself with. And I think that's what that personal devotion, feeding yourself the word of God and being submitted to dialogue such as this is really, really important. Because I tip my hat to seniors who have been in the ministry and in this faith, as you brought up the analogy of Apostle Paul talking to Timothy. Even when I think one time in Second Timothy chapter 2, Paul had to tell Timothy, he told him to remember the gospel that he preached.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, he had been through some stuff, so he knew, and he had to tell Timothy, who was a young pastor, remember what you saw me do. Those are the things you do, because there's other things that are coming that are going to throw you off. And so I think that that's why people like yourself, I really pull from, because I believe in every room you can either be a pillar or an ornament. In my background of my house, you see the tree, and you see ornaments on that tree. But what you'll notice is that's for look. But what holds up this house is pillars. And so
Mhm.
I want to be surrounded with people like yourself who are pillars and that know how to keep it together. So, yes, sir.
I think for any pastor, young pastors out there, I would encourage them. Number one is to really have a plan of a personal plan of development. What is your plan for development? I think you know what is your plan for growth. Many times we give this to our people, but we don't take time and give to ourselves. As so goes the pastor, so goes the people. So I think you got to realize that was really what's going on.